everybody. I am Sean Reynolds from Sports and about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after the Jets go to a very impressive 6-0 on the season. What a start to the season for the Winnipeg Jets. You know, coming into this game, they were the last undefeated team. Coming out of this game, they remain the last undefeated team in the NHL. Ken is pretty much ready to go here. I think he's just stepped away quickly to use the little boys' room. So I'm going to try and wrap this up really quickly because I think he's going to be back any second. In fact, I think he's coming in here right now. People should probably ask him if he washed his hands for sure when he gets back into the show. You don't want him touching that microphone if that's the case. Anyways, quickly, just to go through this, I'm going to point to something that I have found really, really interesting on this season, because when the game starts, and I think St. Louis is looking like they're the better team to start that game, and then the Jets go down 1-0, I'm thinking, okay, here we go again. This is one of those games that I expect to end like 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 or something like that, because for the most part, when these games look like this and the other team's looking like it's the better team, the Jets just grind it down. They're not going to let you score again. They finally score, then they get the lead. And usually what happens is once they get that lead, you have to open up your risk profile, and then they punish you for opening up your risk profile, and they can kind of run up the score on you. But because it was so late in the game that the Jets started scoring, I didn't see it being one of those run-ups. I thought it being one of these, grinded out games. The Jets, like if you just take a look at it, covering this team, the real MVPs are Ken and myself, and the people who break down all these Jets games to try and bring some interesting, fresh new angles to it, because the Jets are a Swiss timepiece. The way that they play, the way they're going to react on a night like tonight, what they're going to do against the St. Louis Blues. They get scored on first, and at that point, that they're just going to survive. They're not going to get scored on. They're going to start tilting the ice in the other team's direction. And this is the part that I wanted to get to, is that when they can finally turn momentum in their direction, this is how they win. So you take a look tonight, the Winnipeg Jets down 1-0. Josh Morrissey draws a penalty. They turn things in the other direction. And all of a sudden, before it's 1-0, now it's 3-1, okay? Not exactly an insurmountable lead in hockey, but with the Winnipeg Jets, it kind of feels that way. You want to know why? Well, the Winnipeg Jets, basically, if you score, they say, okay, now it's our turn, right? Only once this season have they allowed more than one goal in a row. You go to their first game against the Edmonton Oilers, they get 6 goals in a row in that game. The next game they get scored on first against the Chicago Blackhawks, they score 2 goals in a row to win the game. Next game, they're playing the Minnesota Wild. They get scored on first. They score 2 goals in a row. In the San Jose game, San Jose never scored more than 1 goal in a row. Then you come against the Penguins. The Penguins, well, they get 2 goals in a row, but then the Jets are able to pull off 3 straight goals. The Penguins get another goal, another 3 straight goals for the Winnipeg Jets. Here's the thing. If you're the Jets and you are basically a grinded out team that you're not going to allow a lot of goals, and you're basically not going to allow more than 1 goal against before you go back and get yours. If you are the team that goes back and gets yours and you're able to capitalize on momentum, you can win the game with that momentum. Tonight's a perfect example. St. Louis scores the first goal. The Jets survive, even though St. Louis is playing as the better team. They're getting the better opportunities, but the Jets shut down shooting lanes. Even if the other team is carrying the play, the Jets don't make it easy on them. They fight to close shooting lanes. They block pucks. They will not let you to the front of the net. And then when you kind of get a little bit tired and sag and they're able to recapture the momentum, bam, bam, bam. The Jets can capitalize on that momentum. It's a really lethal combination for the Jets to have. The fact that they don't allow you basically to score more than 1 goal, but when you allow them to score, they're probably going to pop another one in pretty shortly after that, maybe even another one. 3 goals in a row in a game usually means the Jets are going to win the game. Quite often, 2 goals in a row means that. So I just think there's something to be said. We've talked about all the different ways that the Jets can win games, but one way that they very consistently win games is that when they get rolling, they're a snowball going downhill, and that snowball gets really big, really fast, whereas the other teams that are playing them try and get that snowball rolling down the hill, and the Jets just don't allow that snowball to start rolling. It's a pattern that I'm noticing over and over again. Haven't really talked about it much from last season, but this is something that the Winnipeg Jets are able to do. They are able to inhibit momentum from their opposition, and they are able to really build on momentum when it happens. As simple as that, you win games like that, whether it's the third line scoring, the power play scoring, a combination of the first, second line scoring on a night like tonight. It's a really good blueprint that the Winnipeg Jets involve, and you do not pull that off unless you have complete and total team buy-in, because you can't capture momentum if just your first line is going and your second, third, and fourth line aren't going, or if just your second and third line are going. You basically need every player on the team to be like, okay, now's the time to step up. First line goes, second line follows, so does the third, so does the fourth. The defense step it up. Your goaltender makes those saves at the right time. Momentum matters, and the Winnipeg Jets are masters of momentum, and that's why we're looking at a 6-0 start to this season. Time for me to bring in the man who's in the building where that momentum just kept rolling. He can tell us a little bit about what he saw down there. The man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny, folks. Wrong music. Kenny, here I am flapping my gums about momentum, and I stopped the show like we're throwing an anchor out of a fast-moving car by playing the intro music and not your intro music. I mean, jeepers. See, this is what the rest of the teams in the league are. They're Renny, killing their own momentum while Kenny comes rolling in here with all. Kenny will pick it up. Kenny's the Jets. He's going to turn out and pick it up here. One thing that Kenny has definitely got momentum with is he's on a hot streak of wearing great suits. Loving that. Is that a silver tie with a white shirt and a blue blazer? Is that what?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, it's blue with some black undertones. Yes.
Creepers. You look like $1,000,000, my friend. Even if you don't want to light yourself properly, that just suit of yours is just shining no matter what.
Doing my best here in the rink, buddy. Doing my best.
Of course it is, because Frankie and the boys are the one that did you up right, because you went on down to Gordon Avenue like all the other folks out there who are trying to look good. They should head on down to Vittorio Rossi, walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Got it going on here. Stacy says Kenny's looking fancy. Of course he is. And Russell James Peters says Frankie is awesome. Russell James Peters.
He knows what's up.
He knows what's up. Ken, what'd you see down there tonight?
Yeah, it was an interesting game, Sean. First period, the Jets actually generated quite a bit of zone time, but it didn't feel like it led to any real great offense. There were very few high danger chances in the offensive zone, but on the flip side, they didn't really give up a whole lot. And, good job by Brandon Saad of getting to the net I think he actually tipped it on the way in and then got the rebound, but I don't think that goal happens without the, accidental stumble by Dylan Sandberg, right? He kind of tripped on Hellebuck's pad, and I'm not 100% certain, and I'm not a goalie expert. We just play them on TV. But I think that because of the disruption, I'm not sure Hellebuck could have closed the 5-hole because of what was going on in the back door there. But again, I'm not taking anything away from Brandon Saad. Nice shot, good job of getting to the net, but I'm not 100% sure that goal happens on a normal night is sort of what I'm trying to spit out here. But overall, Jets, like you touched on it, Sean. I mean, in the past, this is a game where the Jets open up when they don't need to, right? They open up in a game like that normally thinking, we're getting zone time, but nothing's working. Let's open up offensively.
Right.
Instead, they just clamp down defensively even more so than they were before. Don't really give up a whole lot, and then sort of just take control in the second period. So I think that again, buy-in is a fleeting adventure at times, but not with this group.
No.
We've talked about this a lot, and I mean, you were right to say, how come this group hasn't learned their lesson before, based on some of the other heartache and disappointment? But there just seems to be this message is resonated now for a couple of years, and now you see it on almost every single game, and that's what's impressing me about the 6-0-0 start. Finding other ways to win, yes, we've talked about that before. And just as a sneak peek, my lead today in my piece for the Winnipeg Free Press is another day, another way. That's what the Jets are doing. They're fine, but again, eventually you run out of ways to win, but doing it the way they have so far is much better than the alternative of finding ways to lose when you play a really good game. That we're not seeing from the Jets. They're not opening up. They're not doing things that get them into trouble instead of sticking to their plan. They stick to their plan and do the job that is necessary. And again, are they playing perfectly? No, but they are playing very well on a lot of fronts. And a lot of people around, like Sean, we're spending a lot of time in press boxes, both at home and on the road here. And whether it's a visiting media member coming in, or, I walked into St. Louis and, person after person comes up and says, whoa, Jets are really playing well out of the gate. And here I'm thinking, well, the Blues are 4-2. They're playing pretty well also. But the Jets are playing well on a number of fronts. And, again, their second power play unit, they don't get a lot of time out there, Sean, on a lot of nights, but that's another big goal for them. And again, you need both units going. That's the way it goes. And they've done a nice job. So anyways, that got them turned around. And Sean, like you said, this is just another simple, subtle play made by Josh Morrissey. Did Braden Shen need to put the clamps on him there? Absolutely not. But Braden Shen knows that if Josh Morrissey gets going up on the ice, all of a sudden it creates to offense. And guess what? It led to offense, but it led to offense from the second power play unit. They got the reward, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. So anyways, it was impressive. Was it perfect? No, but there was a lot of good in the game. And again, it's 6 games, so we're not going to overreact to sample sizes. But I will say that the Jets are starting to make believers out of people around the league, not just people in their own market.
I'm going to bring this up because it was dangerously close to being the Arctic Spaw's cold take of the game here, where Matt Morris says some people are saying that the Jets have only played versus weaker opponents so far, but when you're number one in the league, they're all weaker opponents. I mean, the one thing, and it's Gabriel Vilardi had also brought this up. I was just on the What Chaos podcast, and they were asking about this. There's
how are my guys doing?
They're doing great. But I mean, one of the things that we talked about, and I don't think you can ignore this. I don't want to rain on any parades. I think this is just one of those, we need to point out the obvious here. The Winnipeg Jets right now are 6-0. They've played 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs last year. Okay, 2 of them were the 31st and 32nd place teams. So this is one of those things where I say, like, you can only play the schedule that is in front of you, right? And what's the saying? Make hay while the sun shines. The Winnipeg Jets are making hay right now. You can say what you want about those teams, and to your point, St. Louis is on a pace right now where they look like they've improved. They were a team that was threatening to make the playoffs last year, so maybe they're one of those teams that gets over the line. But this is one of those things where I don't tell people how to fan, and I'm not going to tell people to like calm down or anything like that. But what I am going to say is, like, facts are facts. 5 of the 6 teams that they played last year are teams that were not in the playoffs last year. So this is a schedule you would have looked at, and you would have thought you'd really like the Jets to capitalize on a lot of these games. But I'll say this, one of the things that we're not seeing from the Jets, 6 games in a row, we see them with that honest effort. They're not always completely and totally on point. Most teams never are, but they are far more on point than any other team in the league. And I take a look at a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, who last night looked like, okay, here come the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then tonight looked like that Leafs team that it's the Maple Laughs, right? You don't get that from the Winnipeg Jets. You don't get this insane, inconsistent effort. You're getting a consistent effort that's getting you over the teams that you're up against. So that won't be the cold take. I kind of like this cold take right here, Ken, because it's the kind of cold take where they're kind of in on it. Doug Henderson says cold take is Vilardi is freezing cold right now. Hey, maybe it's one of those things where I need to invite Gabe Vilardi over to my Arctic Spas hot tub to kind of warm things up and get that game going. Because the line, there's no such thing as a cold take. Maybe there's no such thing as a cold game or cold hands or whatever you want to say in an Arctic Spas hot tub. I know there's not in mine. Of course, mine has the Spa Boy package. It helps test and adjust the water for me. I like to say set it and forget it because it makes things pretty easy. If things do go a little bit off, your phone lets you know. So that's the Arctic Spas cold take of the game. Good to hear from you, Doug Henderson. You talked about Vilardi before when you were texting me. What are you seeing from him right now?
Yeah, I'm just not seeing Gabe playing with as much confidence as we've seen at various points. And the example that I used, and again, let's set the record straight immediately. The play from Kyle Connor was a very crispy backdoor pass to him that was in his skates. I'm not disputing that. But Gabe Vilardi is incredibly gifted with his skates as well as his hands. Last year, Sean, that play on the back door goes skate to stick and he bangs it in basically right after the puck is on his blade of his skate. But this year, it kind of kicked on him and bounced out a little further, and it was unable to be converted. And Sean, I'm sure you caught it, and some of the folks in the chat room probably did also. When the Jets are protecting a 1-goal lead late in the game today, it was Alex Iafallo over the boards instead of Gabe Vilardi. And again, it's not a knock on Vilardi. It's a pat on the back to the way that Alex Iafallo can be the human eraser when it comes to defensive zone play. So I just mentioned it because folks were very upset last year when Cole Perfetti was being taken off late in games when the Jets were protecting leads. It's not just Rick Bowness doing it to a young player. Gabe Vilardi is a top-line player and was on the bench late in the game with the Jets protecting a 1-goal lead, and it wasn't as punishment, though it is worth noting because if Gabe is playing his best, he's probably on the ice for that shift instead. So I just think that, again, there were a couple times where it looked like he was open, he had the puck on his stick, and it didn't translate into, not just a goal. It just, the chances are not quite as gifted or dangerous as they have been previously. So for me, when Gabe is playing well, he's not a burner, but his ability to anticipate is what allows him to make a lot of great plays. Right now, he seems to be stuck kind of in neutral is how I would describe it. And it's led, yes, there have been a couple points here and there, but just hasn't been as dangerous as he needs to be as a top line player. And this is a guy who takes incredible pride in what he does. There'll be no one more disappointed than Gabe Vilardi about how the start of the year or, how the game today went personally, but he knows that the Jets are 6-0 and he knows that he can take his game to another level. And I still think he takes his game to that next level. And I still think I'm going to mark Gabriel Vilardi down for 35 plus, even though he has 0 through 6 games. I'm not here jumping off the bandwagon after saying he was going to have a great year. I think he still has the ability and he's got lots of time, and he's a guy that can get hot in a hurry and he can stack up a lot of goals. So I just don't see him moving around as, smoothly as we've seen previously. And I don't see him playing with as much confidence with the puck in his stick. And that's a strange thing because the two other guys in his line regularly, they're exuding confidence with the puck on their sticks right now, Sean. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say, if we're focusing specifically on Gabriel Vilardi, essentially for me is this is the same thing as we were just saying about the second line. There's no rush, right? There's no rush to get someone. You're 6-0. There's no reason to panic about this. There's plenty of time to suss this out. There's plenty of time to let someone get their skates under them, their hands under them, all those different kind of things. 2 games ago or 3 games ago, the conversation was around Cole Perfetti, and now all of a sudden Cole Perfetti walks out and has 7 points in his last 3 games.
Yep.
I mean, Gabriel Vilardi, we know what he's capable of. We know what he'll do for that line. We know that once he does get going, it just adds another element where he's that guy who can have that 3-point night. And, when he's having a 3-point night, it probably means Mark Scheifele's having 2 and maybe Kyle Connor's having 4 and so on and so forth. So this is the thing about this. And I think someone pointed it out earlier on. I believe I brought it up, but Gabe Vilardi doing so many things that don't show up on the score sheet that you don't need to worry when he's not showing up on the score sheet. I had a conversation with a viewer of the show just quickly while the game was going on about Mark Scheifele, and they basically asked me, do you not agree that Scheifele can take shifts off in the defensive zone? And I said, well, I don't think there's really very many players in the NHL who don't, but let me tell you this, I know that there was a time a number of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, where Scheifele was starting to get a lot of heat and deservedly so for how he was playing the game defensively or the effort that he was putting in. You don't win a Masterton trophy. You don't have the team goals against average that the Winnipeg Jets have right now if you've got a defensively deficient 1C, right? And so this is just a roundabout way of saying, as long as all these players on the Winnipeg Jets who are supposed to be scorers are not scoring, but I'm not seeing them go out and hang a -3 or a -4 on the night because they're taking care of their own business. What I'm seeing regardless is a player committed to winning. And if that means that they help defend the Jets to a win on that night, even though they're there to also score points, as long as you're winning, as long as you're committed to doing the things that help you win, you've got all the time in the world to buy you time for things to open up. And that's what I think is going to happen very soon, just like what happened with the second line. But in the meantime, let's just call for, or how about we play it like this, Ken? Let's say we expect the pristine roofing wake-up call from Gabriel Vilardi, maybe even in the very next game. And you know what that means. It's time to give North End Rick a call at 204-981-6289. Give him the pristine roofing wake-up call. He'll be down to your place. Pull out the ladder and take a look for anything that you need, roofing, siding, and exteriors. Or you can give a call to Pristine Roofing at 204-237-7663. Ask for the owner maybe, and then ask, hey, you're the owner, aren't you, North End Rick? Because the owners love it around there being mixed up with North End Rick. It's their favorite thing going out there.
Stop it.
We talked about Cole Perfetti. Just get into what you've seen from him the last 3 games.
Yeah, right on, Sean. And just quickly, folks, we're not crapping on a 6-0 start. The 6-0 start is impressive.
Don't even.
Sean is impressed. So am I.
You can't make some people you can't make happy.
That's all. We're not here to point out flaws for an hour, but we're just trying to say there is room for improvement, just like there would be for any team. 3-0, 0-3, 0-6, whatever. It's the Jets are doing a lot of things right. That is the key here of the discussion. Cole Perfetti,
Hold on. Before we do that, I want to do this because I keep forgetting it because my squirrel brain keeps forgetting this. It's been called for. Let's make this a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. You know, I once again interrupted your momentum, but that song's got momentum of its own. So it just starts it all up all over again. Put the ball on the tee. Get a hole in one on this. Let's get back to Cole Perfetti.
Yeah, it's okay. You got me bobbing my head in the press box here in the booth. So there's no doubt. Right now, it's the opposite of what we were just talking about with Gabe Vilardi. Cole is exuding confidence also right now. And not just in the offensive zone where he had 3 critical assists in the second period. all of which were, part of the importance of, turning the game on its head in a lot of ways. Moving his feet better. He's got a little more jump, winning more battles, going to the right spots. We know his spatial awareness is exceptional. His ability to find people in traffic, really important. But Sean, I mean, I don't want to give away the ending, but Cole Perfetti's best play of the game is something that won't end up in the traditional box score. So we'll get to that later on. But I really like what I'm seeing from Cole. I liked, he was very direct in the media. And yes, again, when you're an elite athlete, there's no sense beating yourself up. Now, that's not to say that, you don't ask more of yourself. And Nikolaj Ehlers was great at this before his breakout on the Friday. But for Perfetti, when you're not scoring or putting up points, you need to be good defensively. And it's not just something that you're saying just to help try to pump yourself up. If you're not allowing anything defensively, then you can feel better about things. And eventually you get something and it pops, and all of a sudden, there you go. And all of a sudden, you look up and Cole Perfetti's got 7 points in 6 games. 0-3. Oh boy, what's going on with Perfetti? It's like a chunk of the second half. No, it's not. It's early in the season, and the guy needed a little bit of runway. And with the ability to have that runway, Cole is back to being a confident player and making plays for himself and his line mates. And it's not just him going. The line has gotten going. Once again, you talked about Morrissey. Ehlers drew another penalty this evening, and that's when you know Ehlers is involved in the game, John, right? When he's drawing penalties, that means he's involved because the puck is on his stick, and when he winds it up, often the opponent has to hook or trip him. So I liked what I've seen there. I really think that Vladislav Nemestikov continues to do the little. He was on the score sheet plenty in this 3-game stretch, but he does a lot of things that kind of sneak underneath the radar, aren't as, he goes beyond the surface level stuff. And Scott O'Neill pointed it out on I believe it was on the Connor goal, the net drive on the back door by Nemesnikov maybe has Binnington thinking maybe he's going to pass it. And in that split second, he thinks Kyle Connor might pass it on the back door. Kyle Connor goes bar down on the very small opening on the blocker side, right? I mean, that's an elite goal scorer, that also has the ability to make the pass to the back door to Nemestikov. But when he sees a little opening, man, that's just an absolute rocket ship going bar down right there. So anyways, impressive on a lot of fronts for that line, and Perfetti is going well. And again, Cole's got to do it all year. And again, I'm not knocking him, but Cole was close to a point-a-game player last year, and then things tailed off for a portion. But I expect him to push through this year. That was a humongous learning experience for him, and it means that he will be better and more prepared to push through this year so that there isn't a quarter of a season lull in terms of the offense, even when he might be playing well defensively. I've said this before, and I will say it again today as a reminder, Sean. Cole Perfetti is not a complimentary scorer on the Winnipeg Jets or point producer. He is a primary point producer, even though, yes, the debate can happen, second line, third line minutes, whatever you want. When Cole is a primary point producer, the Jets are a more dangerous hockey team. And I'm not putting this squarely on a young player's shoulders by any means. I am saying he has the ability to be one, and I expect him to be one for the entire season. Because guess what? That's what Cole Perfetti expects of himself, Sean.
Following Kenny after a trip to the buffet is like going to a buffet and someone saying like, how's the food? Like I can pick, his plate was piled this high, so I can comment on the shrimp. I may get to talk a little bit about the fried rice. So I'm going to try and do that just quickly on the Kyle Connor thing there. He goes bar. The crazy part about that is not how quick his release is, but how crazy, if you see the shot from behind him, it looks like he is going to go far side low. So the speed of those hands is also in the change that he goes short side high, right? He basically goes from one side of the net. You can see that Binnington is expecting that all the way to the other side. You have to rotate your hands to a pretty decent degree to be able to change that elevation like that. He does that so quickly. It's in the back of the net. Ken, we've seen it a number of times when they're at the Hockey for All Center and we're waiting by the Jets room at the end of the practice. He practices taking that pass from Dean Chenault quite often and then releasing that puck, watching him down at ice level by the glass and seeing how quickly and how hard that puck comes off his stick with. I don't even know if I'd call it a snapshot. It's like an abbreviated wrist shot, but holy smokes, that was on full effect. You can see that practice is really paying off. Going to Perfetti, what I like about this is you can see the confidence relation between him getting the 4 points the other night, him getting the 3 points here tonight. He's definitely has potential to be a streaky player. I agree everything with what you say about the idea of him, needing to do it a little bit more consistently. The one other thing I'd like to see is in a game like 2 games ago and a game like this, Cole Perfetti, those are his kind of games, right? The St. Louis Blues kind of like to play an offensive style of hockey. I've said this before. The St. Louis Blues don't go good, or they don't do well against this version of the Winnipeg Jets because they want to play an outright skill game. And the Winnipeg Jets force them to grind, and it doesn't work out well. You could see in the way that they scored, right? Passing the puck over to Kyle Connor and him having a clear direct lane to the net is not grind hockey. That's kind of easy-going hockey. Everything that I'm seeing from Cole Perfetti is what we know he likes to do and what we know he's dangerous at. Cole Perfetti likes to kill you from distance, right? So the pass that he makes when he passes that over to Miller, he's off to the side, he slams on the brakes, he puts it back, it's a shot, it goes in. The setup that he gets to Kyle Connor is him picking up on work. Nemesnikov is grinding, he loosens it up. Perfetti gets the puck, turns towards the boards, throws it up top. The pass goes over. It gets to Kyle Connor. It's in the back of the net. So I know that he can score from distance. I know that in games like this, I know enough to expect that in games like this, where it's a little bit more wide open in the offensive zone, he's going to do well. What I would like to see him add, Ken, that I think would make him a little bit more consistent going forward is what we talked about last year when he really got going last year. All of a sudden, Cole Perfetti was going to the front of the net. He was going to the dirty areas. He's got those 7 points without really having to get dirty in these last 3 games. I'd like to see him add that element a little bit more often, and that will have me believing that when times get a little bit tougher and the offense gets a little bit more difficult, he won't have those swaths of time that he falls asleep instead of just throwing up big numbers in short amounts of time against teams that, don't really defend in a difficult manner.
Yeah, right on. No doubt about that.
If you're okay with me taking it somewhere,
I am absolutely.
We're going to take things a little bit out of order. I want to do Johnston Group because I think a lot of people are going to have
people are on it
out there. So while we're here, we might as well stay here. What do you have as the Johnston Group play of the game, Ken?
Yeah, let's stay on Perfetti.
Play of the game. Yeah.
Sorry, I just think that the stick lift was absolutely exceptional. 5:30 left. It's a 1-goal game. St. Louis pressing a little bit, and there's Brandon Saad sniffing around the crease, Sean, looking for the hat trick. And there's Cole Perfetti winning the battle. I asked him about it, and he said, he said that he wished that the puck had been out earlier, but since it wasn't, he basically gave all the strength that he had and lifted the stick and prevented at least a scoring chance, if not more, at what was the potential tying goal. So for me, that's a easy under the radar. We've got you covered right there, sponsored by our good friends at the Johnston Group.
I wanted to do that because it's pretty predictable. You're a predictable guy, Ken. I thought you'd go there, so I thought while we're on Perfetti, we might as well stay there. I'm actually going to go in a different direction, and I'll tell you why. It should be Perfetti.
Contrarian, Sean? No. I'm unfamiliar with this person.
Old dogs can learn new tricks, Ken. I'm telling you. But I'm going with Nick Ehlers, and I'm going with Nick Ehlers on the Kyle Connor goal. This is not only going to get us to the We've Got You Covered, but it's also going to go to another conversation I've been having recently about someone who got a hold of me and wasn't happy with the amount of ice time Ehlers was getting. It gets to the time on of ice versus shift debate or shift length and all those kind of things. But I give it to him because on that play, it's Josh Morrissey jumps up into the breach, leads the charge, moves it over to Nikolaj Ehlers, and Nikolaj Ehlers throws the puck to the middle to Nemesnikov, and it gets taken away. Nemesnikov is caught down low. Josh Morrissey is caught down low, and there's 3 St. Louis Blues players there. And while they're not exactly clean with the puck, instead of just looking back to where he dropped the pass into the slot and being like, well, I'm down low, it's someone else's job, Nikolaj Ehlers instantaneously button hooks, knocks the puck into the corner where Nemesnikov gets it. Then he skates off and changes, gets Kyle Connor on as Nemesnikov gets the puck to Perfetti. Perfetti gets it up top. It's up top over to Kyle Connor, and it's in the back of the net. It's still not as nice of a traditional we've got you covered play as Cole Perfetti, but I give it to Ehlers because also if you go back and watch the Cole Perfetti stick lift, even if he wasn't there, Saad probably doesn't get the shot through because Nick Ehlers has slid and is lying down on the ice in front of him, blocking a shot to the net. How committed is this guy to his defensive game? So for me, that's the Johnson Group. We've got you covered play of the game. I just think it's an example of beautiful hockey. And for people running their own small business here in Canada, this is a beautiful thing. You can look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. I want to transition to this, okay? Nick Ehlers not getting the ice time that a lot of people demand of him to get. We talked about it on the last show, the idea of him, them maybe finding more ways to get him on the ice. Maybe you double shift him. Maybe he goes out for a shift with the 4th line, and if you see if that speed can't open something up. But here's what I love about this play, Ken, and here's what I love about what the coaches see. The coaches send him out. His shifts are basically the same as everybody else. He's just different with his shifts. How different is he? Well, Nikolaj Ehlers goes and doesn't lead that charge. Josh Morrissey leads the charge, but he's part of an offensive try. Turns the puck over and goes and gets the puck back and creates a scenario that is going to lead to a Jets goal. But instead of, as almost every offensive-minded player in the NHL would do, they would stay on the ice and try and capitalize on the chaos that they had caused. And without even thinking about it, if you watch the video, he sees that Nemesnikov is going to get it, knows that the puck is in a safe place in the offensive zone, realizes that there's probably going to be offense to be had off of this, and instead of trying to stick around and benefit from it, he turns and does the thing that's best for the team. He changes, knowing that the next line will get out there. There will be a fresh set of legs. Kyle Connor gets on the ice and has to do nothing. It's served up on a silver platter. He skates out, gets the puck on his stick, puts it in the back of the net. No one is looking for him because the deception is provided by Ehlers changing at a time that no one would expect the guy to change, and yet it's a beautiful change. I just take a look at this, and I think if you want to know what makes Ehlers special, part of that is the fact that he doesn't take super long shifts and changes at the right times. So while it drives people nuts that his time on ice doesn't necessarily translate to what they are expecting, there's a method behind his madness and a reason that the Winnipeg Jets coaches point and ask you to not necessarily judge his time on ice, but judge the amount of shifts he gets, because boy, oh boy, pound for pound, he sure knows how to make the best of the time that he has on the ice again.
Yeah, right on. And today, the discrepancy was not nearly as wide as on Sunday when he was just under 13 minutes. Today, 19 shifts for 17:26. Just as an example, Kyle Connor, 21 shifts for 19:57. Ehlers often taking shorter shifts. That's another part of the equation. Today, it was closer, and I think it was more to do with the power play being just over 2 minutes for Connor, 1:58 for Ehlers. So, yeah, well said, Sean. And again, we're not out here banging on the drum to change up a bunch of lines with the Jets being 6-0.
Leave it be.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But again, Ehlers, there was not a huge discrepancy in shift total the other day either. So today is another smart example of that. And like you said, the reason why Ehlers takes shorter shifts is, he's explosive and he is going around a lot. Like he gets a lot out of the shifts, which is what you just explained.
Yeah.
My only contention with what you said, and again, I'm being partly facetious here, but the ability to go bar down, I would say, is not nothing. Though I know what you meant. He didn't have to. He did all the hard.
Like I'm saying, it's
the hard work was done.
Yeah,
I'm
served
definitely
up on a platter is more just it's
for
it's
sure.
not to take anything away from Kyle Connor. It's to say that he was put in a really good spot by a very unselfish play by a really great teammate. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
That's
and
why it's the Johnson Group play of the game.
Julie Sue is at the stage where she says she's so tired of how much Ehlers is or isn't used. He's used just fine, just so tired of it after how many seasons. It is interesting because this is that kind of thought process that never seems to die. I don't know. I think if you had truth serum and you had a conversation with Nikolaj Ehlers, I don't know that there would be a complaint necessarily about his ice time. I think just the opportunities, maybe like first line minutes, all those kind of things, which is definitely being appeased by already getting him. You know, the funny thing is we talked about that first line power play last year, Ken, and I had said the way that Ehlers was being used on that, might as well move him to that second power play unit where they basically made him the primary weapon, as long as you're willing to use that second line almost as much as you're willing to use the first line. But hey, really smart power play guys, new coaches have come in who've found a way to make sure that he's used on that top play. So a lot of the people last year that I argued against and I was okay with the idea of putting him on the second line, I think a lot of those people saw what we're seeing right now, that there's a way to use Nikolaj Ehlers on that first line. That first power play line. It's definitely happening now, and it's definitely paying off for the Winnipeg Jets. Can you give Sweet Lou a shout out before we go any further?
You just sorry, how about you go first? You just said payoff. Let's go payoff first.
You want to do the payoff? Well,
you just said it, so let's go.
Most definitely paid off for the Winnipeg Jets to be using him the way they are. And if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loans. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. And Ken, I can't believe I missed that obvious segue.
I didn't. Don't worry. I'm here for you. Here for you.
You've got the Johnson Group, got you covered. Play of the game after that. You just stole that away from two really deserving guys. Well done. Give Sweet Lou a shout out before we move on.
Yes, sir. For folks who have realty needs they'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Roll LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
No doubt. Hey, we should get to Big Stan. We didn't get to talk about him that much in the last podcast. I know that there's a lot of people texting me about him. I know there's a lot going on. Where do you see him after his first two games?
Yeah, it's certainly work in progress. I thought there was some progress made today. Quite frankly, I thought he was moving the puck a little bit more crisply and cleaner today in the game. I think he made a really important. There was a stop in the third period that I liked. I thought his mobility was better in game 2 than game 1, which is what you would expect when you played one preseason game. I saw a player who was a little bit more confident. I thought that there were some times where the third pairing had some issues, but I thought that Colin Miller had a tough first period, but then rebounded nicely also. So again, third pairing is a work in progress, but I like the potential for it. Again, it's early in the competition progress, Sean. That's the way it's going to be. I mean, the way the injury means that the competition will carry into the season, and it was always going to carry into the season. I've said this before, I'll say it again. This isn't a choosing one over the other. It will be something that will be determined in the next 10 to 20 game block. But Logan Stanley is in the competition. It's not surprising that he was given the opportunity to go back to back. You give the player a fairer chance to go back to back after missing time. So, am I here to say he's earned the next 10 games? No, I'm not. But I wouldn't be saying that if he played great in all of the games either. There are capable players in the competition. And I think that, I still think that Hayden Fleury gets a game on this road trip. I could be completely wrong. I asked Scott Arniel about it. He said it's game to game. There isn't a set plan saying, it's going to be one or the other, a platoon situation, or, sometimes it will be related to the opponent, but we'll see how it goes. I think it was, again, I don't have an opinion saying Logan Stanley's back playing the way that he did when he took Nate Schmidt's job temporarily. That's not what I've seen so far, but I also haven't seen him make a ton of mistakes. People that are saying that he's playing terrible, I mean, that's not accurate either. I mean, is there room for improvement? Of course there is, but there's room for improvement for every player. He's still in the competition. I think, like I said, I think the most important thing for Logan Stanley, he played with more confidence today. On the puck for one, or on the ice for 1 goal, 4 at even strength, 21 shifts for 16-28, 202 while shorthanded. Not a flashy stat line, 2 shot attempts, 3 block shots. So, it wasn't a matter of him, making a ton of mistakes. And that's not what I saw. So again, the competition is ongoing. Logan Stanley is in the competition, and Logan Stanley has some tools that can help this Jets blue line if he plays with consistency. So now it's up to him to continue to stack games and see if he can improve his level and get to that level we saw last year for that small sample size, and see if he can run that over a larger sample size if that is allotted to him.
I mean, Patrick Guazad or Guazd, or I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but Patrick says not a big fan of Stan, but in all fairness, he's only played 2 games this year after knee surgery. Like, after knee surgery, folks, like, he suffered a knee injury in training camp and is back after that. So I would say, do I take a look at his first 2 games and say, bam, he's in there, he's totally stolen? No, I think it's been a little bit rocky for him in the first 2 games. I think he's better in the second game than he was in the first game. So right off the bat, if you're a coach, you're looking at that first game and you're saying, okay, well, he's a little bit behind everybody else, had knee surgery, so let's give him a little bit of time. They give him time. He's getting better. He's doing the things you could expect from him. I can tell you this, folks, like, this is just something that we know, and conversations happening behind the scenes. With Brendan Dillon gone, he was a really massive part last year with the Winnipeg Jets, and it's not happening yet. We're not at that stage of the season where that those kind of battles, those wars that the Winnipeg Jets were having with the Minnesota Wild and those different teams is coming in, where Adam Lowry needs to go and he needs to answer the bell. And so many times, I just saw the video the other day of Tkachuk in Ottawa running, and I can't remember who it was. Was it Nemesnikov or Iafallo? But anyways, and he turns and looks to the ref and is pleading with the ref, but knows Dillon is coming, and then just turns and gets ready and drops the glove. You can't expect Adam Lowry to have to go out and fight 4, 5, 6 more times this year, because the Winnipeg Jets are going to need that element to their game at some point. And the one thing that we know, and I don't know necessarily that his heart is in it, I think Logan Stanley is going through, and I would say this, Logan Stanley, because the Jets have been patient, he hasn't had to, or he hasn't needed to do this like a lot of players have had to do. But the vast majority of players that you look at in the history of the NHL that you think were tough guys were really good hockey players at every level of hockey they were at, and then at some point got told, if you want to stick in the NHL, you're going to have to play this brand of hockey. Logan Stanley was an offensive force in the OHL on very good OHL teams. So he comes to the NHL and he wants to add that element. And every player thinks to themselves, if I could just get going, if I could just get rolling, if I could just get a goal, if I could just do this. He's been thinking that for a long time. In the meantime, the Winnipeg Jets, and Scott Arniel said it out loud here earlier this year, they need him to play the kind of game where he's just getting in the head of the opposition. You've seen him do that. You go back to the game where he grabs the helmet and holds it above his head. You go back to seeing him and leaning on the star of the Minnesota Wild and taking him out of the game. You see him towards the end of the year, we're heading into the playoffs. He was really playing that game where he was, really pissing off the other team. He's able to do that. I think if you ask him in his heart of hearts, do you want to go into the NHL and make a career out of being that guy? I think remember Brad Marchand started out as a guy who was a pest. and then translated into a pest who's also one of the best scorers and most clutch players in the game. Every player wants that. Every player thinks they can get that. Logan Stanley is getting to the point, and the Jets want to get him to a point where they can plug him into the lineup in games where they need that element, and he can play that element, so it's not all on Adam Lowry's shoulders. Dylan Sandberg doesn't play that way, so this is what the Jets think they need. This is why they have the patience that they have with Logan Stanley. This is why they've got all the time in the world to try and make this work. And to be honest, for all the people who are like, why is he in the lineup? Get him out of the lineup. What's the problem here? Well, in the 2 games they've put him in, they've gone from 4-0 to 6-0. There's just like with Cole Perfetti before him and getting him scoring, and just like now with Gabe Vilardi and getting him scoring, just like with Logan Stanley, getting his game up to snuff and having that element in your lineup, there is no reason to rush it because you are not losing hockey games right now. The Jets have all the time in the world, especially with the lead that they've built up over a number of significant teams in the Central Division.
And just quickly for Russell Peters, nothing new with Ville Heinola. He is not on the road trip. If he were close to returning, he would be on the road trip skating in a non-contact jersey. It's possible that he's back skating, back in Winnipeg, but I don't think his return is imminent. We'll see when the Jets only get back home for a 1-game home game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, so maybe we'll get more of an update on Monday. But again, he's not here. He's not going to be entering the competition on this road trip unless something dramatic happens in the next few days, which I don't expect it to. But he will be in the competition when he is ready to get up to speed. But until he is in a yellow non-contact jersey skating with the Jets, he's not a factor. He's not even a factor until he gets out of that yellow jersey and into a regular jersey. So that element of the competition is still a little ways away at minimum.
Okay, let's get Corey Kolchicki says Stanley doesn't tend to play physical, though. I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to address with the idea of what Logan Stanley was at the junior level and what he's trying to be. Again, Ty Domi, you hear the stories, was a phenomenally gifted offensive player in junior, and then he comes to the NHL and just ends up being like an all-time tough guy in the NHL, right? At some point, things have to change. So the deal here, Corey, is when he has played physical, and I think you're right. I think there's all these times, we said it on this podcast last year, if he would just play that style of game, he would be extremely useful to the Winnipeg Jets. So I agree with you. He doesn't tend to play physical, but what the Jets believe is when he has, it's effective and it works. So they're just trying to convince him to go there. They've got the horse to the pond. They're just trying to get him to drink that water. Ken, we got to move on here. Let's move on to the keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, we got a little debate on this one. I mean, obviously, Connor Hellebuyck made a great save late among many, but for me, I think it's the Binnington kick save on Mark Scheifele, and I'll definitely cede the floor to you on this one. But at the time of the game, the Jets could have extended, could have made it a 2-goal game. Mark in real time knocks down, maybe it was a pass by Pionk because he saw Mark was open, but it was definitely a shot pass, and he knocked it down. He saw where Binnington was deep in his net. He pushed out to the far post on the backhand, and, maybe he could have gone a little bit further. I'm not disputing that one bit. But in real time, I don't think he made a panic play. I think he made a strong power move to his backhand. And I think that he was surprised that Jordan Binnington was able to kick out the right pad, and he made an exceptional save. So I'm going with that, even though Connor Hellebuyck is certainly a deserving, and he had several candidates, including one that you will go to after you dispute my call about Scheifele in real time after having the ability to watch it in slow motion a few times back at home.
Yeah,
which is your benefit.
Yes, it is most definitely my benefit. There's an overhead shot that really shows it. Now, first of all, let me just say it's a phenomenal save by Jordan Binnington. The only thing I would say in the overhead shows it clearly that there's nothing he can do. He doesn't have the capability to push from post to post. All he can do is stretch out and stick out the leg. If Mark Scheifele just takes a quarter of a stride across the crease, there's a wide open net that Jordan Binnington cannot get to. But to your point, the net is so wide open and it's so unthinkable that Binnington can even get the toe out that Mark Scheifele sees the wide open net and just goes to put it in the wide open net, right? So it's one of those things where, it's easy to sit here and be me and be like, oh, if Mark Scheifele just would have taken it across the crease, he's wide open. But that is the fact of the matter. If Mark Scheifele takes it across the crease, it's impossible for Binnington to get there, and it's a wide open net. Doesn't take, well, it slightly in my mind takes away from Binnington. And what I will say that is the toe that Hellebuyck gets out with 40 seconds left. That is one of those things where Hellebuyck basically finds a way to stretch out and give who is it? Is it Saad at that time?
It was Saad
almost
again, yeah.
nothing. Almost nothing. And regardless, if he doesn't get the toe across as fast as he does, Saad probably has a little bit more time to be calm and put it maybe upstairs or roof it or get it over the pad. Basically, what's happening is he doesn't feel like he's got a lot of time because he sees Hellebuyck starting to make the move across the crease. It doesn't look as eye-popping. I think it's a better save, and it's a game-saving save, no doubt. If the Jets score and it's 4-1, well, what happens? St. Louis probably loses the game. In the end, they did lose the game. I can tell you this right now. There's a very good chance the Jets only get away from that game with 1 point if Connor Hellebuyck doesn't make that save, which is why, for me, that is the keg save of the game. A good debate on it. I like it. Keep the debate going, and you should, because you should tell us what you think the save of the game is. Your hashtag the keg save of the game. Why? Well, if you do, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Our winner from last show, that would be No Frills Dino, who named himself No Frills Dino because I ran into Dino at a No Frills one time, and I think we talked to hockey for about 2.5 hours before we got kicked out of the store. So No Frills Dino, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me your email, and I will send you, or I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And I'm going to, in a spate of generosity, and only because in the last show I did not say who the TCB Lamplighter winner was, I'm just going to give a shout out to 3 past keg save of the game winners: Simer 6, Jefferson Peters, and Sean Fingland. You have unclaimed $50 gift certificates. You could have lost them. I am going to give you the chance to claim them still, so you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email, and I'll have the fine folks at the keg send you, of course, those $50 gift certificates. To the TCB Lamplighter, I should point out that right at the end, thank you, chat room, you let me know that I forgot to name it. I did name it, and turns out the winner, not your Graham, is the mother-in-law of Winnipeg Gabe Vivaldi. So Winnipeg Gabe Vivaldi saw it, passed along the information, and that lamplighter was claimed. So Renny's skin gets saved by the chat room, by Winnipeg Gabe Vivaldi, and by Not Your Graham. So let's get at it. We got 2 minutes to get out of here, Ken. TCB Lamplighter of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, Kyle Connor's goal for me is that, and for all the reasons that you mentioned earlier. So I'm not going to repeat them. If folks didn't see them, they'll press rewind and check it out. But incredible shot, bar down. But the play is made by an unselfish act by Nikolaj Ehlers with a smart change and a nice pass to get it over to Kyle Connor, and then he ripped it home. So I'm going with Kyle Connor's goal.
Let's rewind all the amazing plays that happen to lead to that goal and start with the shot. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's a handful of people on the earth are able to shoot the puck like that. So let's start with that. Let's start with, is it Samberg who moves the puck over to him?
Yep. Yes.
Let's talk about how quickly Samberg gets the puck and moves it over to get it to him and finds him, knowing, keep in mind, Samberg is watching the play and Kyle Connor jumps off the bench behind his shoulder. So he's got a sixth sense to see him. So give props, of course, to Samberg. Give props to Cole Perfetti, who is the man who gets in to build off the work of Nemesnikov and get it up top very quickly to get the St. Louis Blues eyes moving in one direction and then another direction as the puck gets moved around. It's always hard to defend those plays. Got to give credit to the Nemesnikov right before that, who gets it into the corner and settles the play down and draws the defenders in to get the puck to Cole Perfetti. And then, like I said before, the play by Nikolaj Ehlers to break up a puck that is surrounded by three Blues after he tries to pass it to the slot. And before that, the pass to him by Josh Morrissey, who jumps into the breach. Like, this is just one great play after another. You want to know why the Jets are doing so good? It's because they just keep making great plays. Everyone on the ice is making great plays. So for me, I agree. TCB Lamplighter of the game. Doesn't matter what we think, matters what you think. Send us your hashtag TCB Lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win one of these, a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale on sale right now. $2 off, $16.44. You get some Lamplighter stick tape if you go buy it right now. Lasts from October 1st to 31st. So you're running out of time. Get at it, folks. Head on down to TCB at 1290 Keniston. Grab some pizza. Don't rob yourself. Get some of the food while you're there. Grab some beers. It's going to be great. That's it for us, Ken. Time. Oh, let us see. Lamplighter, winner, last show. That's Hugh Wachenko. Hugh, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I'll have the fine folks at TCB send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company, who have this great stick tape out right now. If you go pick yourself up a pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, you've heard me say it. It is the nectar of the gods. That's it for us, Ken. Enjoy your time down there. Grab some barbecue. You got something to say before we go?
Yep, just the big ending on the sponsors. Good show,
yeah.
My man. Yep.
Yeah, no problem at all. I wanted to say, if you appreciate the conversations happening in these spaces, folks, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in these spaces. That would be Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, Arctic Spas, Pristine Roofing, the Johnston Group, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. It's a pleasure, as always, to spend this time with you. We want to do it again this Thursday as Ken heads out west. Someone said, get the salmon, Ken. Get the salmon when you're out there as you head to Seattle, as the Jets take on another resurgent team, but also another team that hasn't made the playoffs. Interesting start. First 7 games of the year, 6 teams that were out of the playoffs. I know that drives some of you crazy. Am I trying to drive you crazy before I send you off into the night? Of course I am. That's what I do. So hopefully I can do it again on Thursday. Can't wait to see you all then. Bye-bye.